Who would you say is the greatest natural bodybuilder that you've ever witnessed on stage? If you had to line them all up, take from generations and put them all during their peak, and you put them all on the same stage, who would take it?
If you're talking about the best bodybuilders,
Let's talk about the drug testing. During that time, would you say the drug testing was thumbs up? They were doing a good job? Rob Hope, if he was going to return, let me ask you this. Have you tried to pull him into the DFAC for a return or like what's
oh,
what's the
always.
story?
We always try
Yeah,
and get him back on stage. Yeah, yeah,
that would be
always.
unbelievable. That would be a sight to see. What do you think if he was to return? Do you think he would make some noise? He would
Oh
there
God,
would be
yeah.
get
Still
yeah,
trains hard, still eats well. I saw him, I trained with him a couple of years ago. We were down his way for the British finals and we went to the gym and he's still training the exact same way. But
that's
he's got a
amazing.
kid now and he's extremely happy. He rides motorbikes and surfs waves and just enjoying life.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that would be epic. If Rob, if you're listening to this, man, you got to get back on stage for the people. It's for the people, man. One day you got to get back on stage. Last time I spoke to him, when I did speak with him, he was talking about sometimes he gets the itch, like
Oh, yeah.
he would love to do it. But if he was going to do it, do you think he would do DFAC exclusively, given your
Yeah.
relationship? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Wonderful. And what about Nigel Davis? Okay, first off, I have no idea. I would assume because he was competing in the 90s. He must be in his maybe 50s.
Oh, Nigel's in his 60s.
Oh my. Okay, that makes sense. So we're talking about like Dwayne Broadway, like that era. Of
Yep.
course, because he
Yep.
was also at that show in when Kai Green won. Dwayne Broadway had also placed, I think, right underneath Nigel Davis at that World Championship. So
Yeah.
if we're talking about in his 60s, I could see he's probably retired at this point, but he's
Yeah,
still promoting.
we keep telling him to come back as an amateur and do the over 60s, but he's not committed yet.
That would be amazing. That's so funny. Who would you say is the greatest natural bodybuilder that you've ever witnessed on stage? If you had to line them all up, take from generations and put them all during their peak, and you put them all on the same stage, who would take it from your eyes, from your perspective and your viewpoint as a judge, and not biased to the emotional side of it though?
Oh,
And hold on, do we keep this in or do we take this out?
you can leave this in if you want, but this is going to
Okay.
take a bit of thinking because I've seen um if you're talking about the best bodybuilders, I mean, you couldn't dismiss Kai Green from that 1996 WNBF World. I mean, I think he was 21 and he was mind blowing. His shape, his size, his posing, his presentation, mind blowing. I'd have to put Nigel Davis in the mix because Nigel Davis is so well put together that he makes bodybuilders look ugly. He was born, I mean, his lats into his waist, his quad sweep, his calf, everything. His aesthetics were exceptional. Siobhan Cunningham, you cannot dismiss Siobhan at his peak. You know, the thickness of muscle, the balance, again, incredible, incredible bodybuilder. Obviously, Dave, I'm obviously biased with Dave, but Dave couldn't possibly be out the mix. I mean, he just his condition was mind blowing. Rob Hope, he just blew people away. I mean, people couldn't believe the size he was. You know, people looked at him and thought he was twice the size he actually was. I mean, he was a small structure. He took his top off and put 5 stone on it. That was how incredible he was. And he could pose. When he stood on stage, he would not move. He did not move a muscle. He hit that pose, and from a judge's point of view, he never moved. And
Hmm.
that was a skill in itself. And then you've got Nathan Williams, who's I still don't think he's even reached his peak yet. I mean, I think that he's could still be better. I mean, he's had leg injuries, he's had issues. I don't think he's actually peaked yet. I still think he could bring an exceptional physique. But you've got so many others on the periphery, but
Of course.
those
Those are
stand
the
out.
ones that so that comes to mind. Now the question is at their peak, they're all at their peak. Now the thing with Kai Green, unfortunately, is that we never saw his natural peak. He exited way too early, right? Like his
Yeah,
natural
yeah.
peak might have been interesting to see,
I
right?
would have been, yeah.
That would have been a sight to see. Well, who knows what that would have been like. But if you had to, let's take Kai out then, because we will never know. We know
Know how
what,
good he
but then
was.
again, though, Rob Hope, do we really know his peak either? Because he
No,
ended early,
probably
right?
not. No,
That's interesting. And same with Nathan, we haven't seen it yet.
I don't think
But we
so.
really like with David K. I mean, David K. also exited like what, late 30s?
Yeah.
So technically, like, could he have? took it up one. Could he have ascended to like another level
He was getting
potentially?
better and better every year. So, and that's the thing. It's like we will never really
We'll
know.
never
And
know.
without seeing them
Yeah.
on stage, I don't think you could actually say. And what's nice about all of them is each and every one of them would probably point at a different one and say, he
Yeah,
was the
true.
best or he was the best. Rob will always say that Nigel was better than him. Nigel will say that Rob was better than him. Dave will say that Nigel and Rob was better than both of them. Nathan's the most humble guy I've ever met. So it's like,
I love
it's
that.
incredible. But there's been so many good natural pros. Clarence McGill was good. You've got obviously Julian that's coming up. He's still a kid,
How old is he?
20 something,
20 something. Yeah,
mid
yeah,
twenties,
yeah,
I
yeah,
think.
yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah.
he's a
So,
baby.
yeah, yeah. Keefe West is also on the rise, right?
Oh, yeah, I mean, Kiffy's like he's only 20 something as well, and he's a phenomenal athlete as well.
Yeah, that guy's all
And
in.
then
Yeah,
Robert Thompson's not old either, so he's still
right.
and he's getting better every year as well. So, um,
That's incredible. With Nigel Davis, let me ask you a question about Nigel Davis. When you saw him at that 1996 World Championships, what was it that had him place seventh or eighth or whatever it was? Because that's like you wouldn't think that would. I mean, was it because he was not conditioned enough? Was he just not big enough at the time because he was quite young?
I think he probably wasn't big enough.
Hmm.
He was also new. I mean, there's a lot of big guys in that, but I mean, it was only 1 year. I think he probably
Hmm.
could have placed higher, but nobody knew who he was. And then the
Ah,
following year, he won the international, and then he went on to. He was never really out the top six after that.
right. Right.
I think he should have won the WNBF Worlds more than he ever did, and a lot of people thought that.
Okay.
I don't think they ever did him any favors. I think that they were harsh on him. But I mean, I think there was a year where we did it in Atlantic City, and I think there was like 40 men in the class. Dave Gooden eventually won it, and
Oh
even
yeah, the
Dave,
lightweight. Yeah, yeah.
there was
Y-
only one class that year.
Really? So when Dave
Yeah,
Gooden won the lightweight, oh wait, hold on. This is not Worlds. You're not talking about Worlds.
yeah, it was Worlds. It was Atlantic City, and I can't remember what year, but there was like 40 guys competed in the one class.
Really?
Yeah.
From what I've read, it's that Dave Gooden had only won a lightweight title in the WNBF Worlds, but was that maybe because that was the only class
There
there
was only
was?
one class, so
Okay, so that's interesting. So Dave Gooden is technically an overall world champion,
yeah,
WNBF Worlds overall.
yeah.
Oh,
And I
wow.
think
Okay.
Dave Hamnett was second, and Nigel Davis was third.
Oh,
But
wow.
I
Okay.
think both Dave Gooden and Dave Hamnett said that they thought Nigel should have won it.
Wow. Interesting. Okay. What do you think the top world championships is at this point? Like, and not being biased to your organization that you run, but what do you think it is still at this point as far as the quality of who's showing up?
I mean, it's an interesting one. I mean, I think that it depends. Some people consider the number of people there as being the biggest organization. That's never been my ethos. I would rather have a smaller show of the best people than have masses of people. But yet again, I'm non-for-profit, so having 200 people that are not as good doesn't benefit me in any way, shape, or form because it's non-for-profit. So I would rather
Right.
have a smaller show of the best. If I look at the organizations this year, I mean, I think that Julian that won our Worlds is up there with anybody. I think Dave Kaye, when he was a DFAC World Champion, would have been unbeatable in any organisation. I think Nathan Williams, who's a DFAC World
Yeah,
Champion,
yeah.
would be unbeatable in any organisation. Robert Thompson has won numerous world titles as well. I mean, the interesting thing is that we will allow WNBF pros to come into the DFAC and compete, but they won't accept DFAC pros in
That's
their show.
unfortunate.
Case in point that Robert Thompson was a pro world champion with us, and he had to go back into the amateurs at the Worlds, WNBF Worlds, to compete
Wow.
because they wouldn't
I didn't
accept
know
him.
that. Wow.
And then he,
And do wow. So what happened there with Robert Thompson? Did he try to go to WNBF Worlds and then just didn't end up, or did he go to WNBF Worlds? What happened there?
yeah, he that year he went out and he won the pro card there. So
Okay. And
so he
so he
took it
won
incidentally probably took it from somebody else, but because he already could have
is a
competed as a
pro,
pro.
which is silly in a way, right?
Yeah,
That is very
yeah.
silly.
And then we had the
And
incident. We had an incident last year where we had Theo won his pro card with us in September last year. He was booked to go out to the DFAC Worlds. He went to compete in the WNBF show and was told he couldn't, or he wanted to go to WNBF Worlds as a pro, and they said no, he couldn't. He would have to go and compete as an amateur. So he went back and competed as an amateur, won his pro card, was all set to come to DFAC Worlds in Munich and was told by WNBF if he did that, he would lose his pro card because his first pro show had to be a WNBF show. So he
Wow.
pulled out of both because he was,
Right. He was fed up.
yeah.
Yeah. Now, David Kaye, arguably one of the greatest of all time. It's been debated on this on the show. He'll say Rob Hope is during his time and still the greatest of all time. I think there's always that fun discussion. But he was loyal to the DFAC. He didn't go. He didn't want to compete in WNBF. He didn't want to do anything else. He was adamant about sticking with DFAC.
Yeah.
What does that mean to you as someone who's promoting a show? Did that warm your heart a little bit? Like, or did
Oh,
you get a little bit?
totally.
Yeah.
I mean, to
Yeah.
have that sort of loyalty is quite incredible. You know, he could have gone and he was under pressure because everyone would criticize him and say, well, how do you know you're the best? And he just used
Right.
you know, I know I'm the best. And I'd be like, yeah, you are the best. We know that. But yeah, no, it means a lot. And I had this discussion with somebody the other day where it was actually head of the UK DFPA. And he was saying, oh, I don't expect loyalty. And I said, no, it's not expecting loyalty. I said, but if nobody's loyal to anything, then nothing has any value. I said, I don't think people have to be loyal to me or to you but they have to be loyal to something.
Mm.
Otherwise, nothing means anything. And he was like, actually, you've got a point there. And it's true. So to me, to have people like Nate and Dave who've never done anybody else, Shane Raymond who's never done anybody else, you know, they've stuck by it. And it's proof in itself when you turn up at a BNBF show and if you look at the judging panel, and the judging panel, you've got people like Dave, Nate's there, Rob Hope's there, Mark Claxton, all these guys that have been pros and are
Oh,
still, you know,
Claxton. Yeah.
are all sitting judging for me. They come along, they part of the BNBF, and it's their place, it's their home, and it's what they give. So it's very special. It's very special. But I mean, as I said, I mean, I'm very lucky, and like Ben Tennessen, if I met Ben Ten in I can't remember what year it must have been, 2004. I think it was Rob beat him at the Worlds, and
That's
I
right.
asked him to come and compete, come and guest pose in Scotland at the BNBF show, and he said, "Oh, I would love that." So when we split from the WNBF, I contacted him and said, "You know, I'd still love you to come, but I understand that it might not be the best thing for you to do for your career." And he says, "Oh no, it'll not be a problem." He says, "And you know, that'll not be a problem." He contacted the WNBF and said that he was going to come, and he came out, and then he went back to the Worlds and got beat out in the Worlds the following year. So, and we just laughed about it, whether he deserved to get beat or not. It was interesting that he
Wow.
went back and got beat when he was their champion. But he's still a friend. He came and stayed with me last year. We went up the Highlands. Nigel's still one of my closest friends. So there's something special about that. But we traveled the world together. We've done so much together. And Dave was my training partner for about 6 years. So it's like,
That's really cool. I want to dive into that too a little bit. But before
yeah,
we do, let's back up here. Ben Tennyson, was he a WNBF World Champion overall winner
yeah,
as well?
overall world champion.
Was that the early 90s? Like we're talking between 93 and 96, somewhere in there?
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if he won the overall the year before. Rob beat
Oh,
him for the overall. So Rob won the overall. I think Ben won the heavyweights.
okay. That would make sense then. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
And let's talk about the drug testing. Like as far as the DFAC, well, let's talk about WNBF. During that time, would you say it was the drug testing was like thumbs up? They were doing a good job?
As far as I was aware, we were polygraphed and we were drug tested, so I didn't have any questions of that. I mean,
Okay.
I didn't see a problem with it.
And what about DFAC? How are you guys with that? Is it the same as the kind of the similar strategies as the WNBF has
Yeah,
taken?
we still use polygraphing and we still use urine testing. So yep.
Okay. All right. And PNBA, similar?
That was, as I say, that was an interesting one because that the year we went out, as I say, we all paid like $70 for a drug test and two people got tested. So it was you
Ooh,
know, yeah. So it was like there's a
that's
bit of a money
interesting.
making scam going on there. I'm not sure about how it works now. They don't use polygraphs, I know that. And as I say, that was my query with the drug testing is why are we all paying $70 and then two people out of 30, was about 30 of us there,
Yeah,
got tested.
that's not right. That's not right.